TEDx first announced that I was going to be participating in this year's event, it was done through an Instagram album post. You all know how those work. You flip through them. And it showed up like this. First, there was a photo of Mark, who's a CEO, in a white-collared shirt. And then there was a photo of Eugenia, who's a CEO with a PhD, in a white-collared shirt. And then there was me, in a backwards hat and a crop top, covered in paint on a beach in Mexico. And my first thought was, Lauren, like, could you maybe have provided a more professional-looking photo? And my second thought was, Lauren, what the heck are you doing? Who are you to do this? You don't have a PhD. You probably don't even have a white-collared shirt. And my third thought was, oh my goodness, I really just want to be on a beach in Mexico. So, in case my photo didn't make it totally obvious, and probably the introduction, but I am an artist, and that's a term that can encompass a whole bunch of different things, which for me, it definitely does. I've used art as a jumping off point to do a lot of different things all over the place. So when the theme of this year, which is panorama, as you all know, was presented to me, I was like, amazing. I can totally talk on this. This 360-degree view actually relates to how I approach my art and all of the different things I do around it. And I was excited. And then the panic and the self-doubt and all that kicked in. I think this is actually a pretty common cycle for a lot of artists in our artistic process as well. This really big excitement about our plethora of ideas, followed by a bout of self-doubt, followed by the thought that, wait, maybe everything I've ever made is actually crap, and questioning our wardrobe choices, wanting to run away, etc. Now, unfortunately, because of the messages that we've had ingrained in us by society, this questioning of our authority and value is only more of an issue often for women. Of course, for women of color, trans and non-binary folks, and people of different abilities, this can only be more compounded. I promise I'm not trying to scare you out of becoming an artist. The world and maybe your parents might be trying to do that already. What I am trying to scare you into is valuing artists, because it is so important that we know the worth of artists and art, and that whether you're an artist or not, the most important thing is knowing your own worth. I wrote this bit, and I realized that I was maybe starting to sound a little bit self-help-y. And bear with me, because it's not going to stop here. But art and self-help and art and therapy are not unrelated. We need art. We all need art. Art can help us as artists to work through emotions. It can help us to figure out how we're dealing with different things that are going on in the world. And people who are not artists need art as well to figure these things out. We need art. We need people like Mark and Eugenia. We need people who are going to write code and cure diseases and manage money. Not me. And because we live in this system called capitalism, you guys are going to fix that, right? No pressure. But because we do, we also kind of need them to buy our art. But I promise that they really do need us too. Because art, like I said, can be a way for people who are experiencing it to work through these things as well. Art can bring some beauty to dark times, and it can expose darkness and the problems that we need to overcome, both personally and in society. And that, I think, is extremely valuable. On a less existential level, art can also just make things look really cool. So what I didn't mean to, art can make things look really cool. There's me. One of the things that are, a lot of what I do as an artist is probably exactly what you think of an artist as doing, which is sitting in my studio, alone, making a mess, painting and drawing, stressing, it looks like here. I do that a lot. But one of the things I tell people that I do, because it's the most job-ish job of the things that I do, is illustration. So even within that title, I do a whole bunch of different things. I do make images for books and magazines and product and murals and events. But what makes it illustration is that a client will come to me with something that they want conveyed through art. So a story that is theirs that I'm translating into art, or a thought or a feeling, or sometimes they just want to make something look really cool. With my own artwork, however, I am in total control of what that story is, what the thought or the feeling or the emotion that I want to convey is. And a lot of artists will tell you that they have to make art, that it's a deep desire in them, and it's in them, and they have to get it out. And I feel like that too. I have always had this desire to use art as a way to convey my thoughts, my feelings, and my ideas. But also, especially as a person with some amount of privilege, I've also felt a deep desire always to try to do some good in the world while I'm at it. Not every story is my story to tell, and I've found that whether it's within art or not, one of the best places to start with is with yourself. Some of my favorite artists have really made the world a better place just by putting their artwork out into it. And any artwork that questions life or brings beauty to it or tackles issues is important. So I've learned that one of the best places to start is by being vulnerable and being truthful, telling your own truth and your own story, your own fantasies or fears, and then outside of that, working in ways to help others to tell theirs. So I came across this quote last week, which is something that Chani Nicholas wrote, and I felt like it really encompassed this for me. Everything you are moving through out in the world, you are also moving through deep within yourself. So this is something that I feel like wrapped up well some of the things that I really relate to in my work, but also the fact that I just quoted my horoscope from last week in a TEDx talk really is also me embracing this be yourself theme. It can take a long time and making a lot of mistakes and honestly making a lot of really bad artwork to really find your style and your voice. And I still make a lot of crap all the time, but one of the things, or two of the things, two contrasting elements that are have become pretty consistent in my work are these very fine, detailed lines, which I have realized I've come to realize represent often to me the idea of control or bordering on obsession sometimes, and they're contrasted with this really light, flowy, abstract acrylic ink, which I've realized helps allow me to let go of that control. So the ink can feel almost therapeutic putting down, like running this brush through the water, and the ink bleeding into the water just is very freeing and can be therapeutic for me and just helps to let go. I've realized that that helps me to let go from the very tiny, meticulous line work. And this is a metaphor, of course. I'm an artist after all, and we love our metaphors, but learning to let go can be just as important, or close to as important, as learning the value of artists. It allows us to get out of our own headspace. I find that working alone all the time, I'm often at my desk obsessing over tiny little details. And sometimes one of the best things for me to do is actually just physically get out of my space, you know, if I'm really lucky, even out of the city, and if I'm extremely lucky, to a beach by the ocean. The ocean for me is like the ultimate of that ink pool therapy. But aside from doing that, if that's not available, then just getting out of my own workspace and going to work with other people. So in 2007, my friend Natalie and I co-founded an arts and environmental organization called the About Face Collective. And we later went on to collaborate with a few other local organizations to plan this project, a rooftop garden project called the Everything Roof. Now, for various boring reasons, we had to let go of the idea of that specific project becoming a reality at that point in time. But through that process, we were able to work on a lot of different projects that involved giving artists opportunities to collaborate with different people working in all different capacities. And some really beautiful things came out of that. So we collaborated with artists and urban farmers to turn these greenhouses into galleries for an event space. And then we worked with Sketch, Street Involved in Homeless Youth, to build these reclaimed materials-based sculptures that were installed in different food gardens around the city. So working with all of these different people from different backgrounds and different capacities really helped cross-pollinate, and we brought art to people in spaces that maybe normally would not have gone to a gallery to see it, and then gallery folks were interested in sustainability initiatives and growing their own food and where their food came from. So recently, I was asked to coordinate, to curate this live mural event for a charitable party outdoors this summer. And it was one of the best experiences of my summer. I got to collaborate with my friend Ben on this big mural and work alongside one of my other favorite artists, Ness Lee. But one of my favorite parts about it was seeing Taban Soleimani go from being hesitant to participate because she'd never done a mural before, to pull off this amazing, huge piece on the side of the building for this big event. It's one of my favorite things ever, is just to see what happens when you give an artist an opportunity to do something that they've never done before. Every artist will approach a different situation with a totally unique lens. And that approach is something that makes us so valuable to the CEOs and the PhDs of the world. I really believe that we learn so much from people who have different experiences than us. For instance, I'm here bestowing my wisdom on you, but I don't necessarily think of myself as any different from you. For one, I still have a hard time thinking of myself as not a teenager anymore, but also I am just as inspired by everything that you guys do. I'm endlessly inspired by teenage girls, especially. You guys come at things with a whole new perspective, and that perspective is so valuable. So I'm not going to lie to you, when you get out of school, you're probably going to have to do some work that doesn't pay you any money to help get yourself out there. But you have to continue to value your own worth, and in any exchange that you take part in, just take account of whether you are being valued as much as you're giving and as much as you are contributing to the situation. So know your own worth and be yourself. Let your real self shine. Wear your backwards hat and your crop top. You guys are like, we don't wear that, that's not cool. But do your own thing and let your real self out there, and know your own worth and collaborate. Your real self is going to be valuable to both yourself and your collaborators. Collaborate with artists and know their worth. If you're an artist, collaborate with other artists and collaborate with carpenters and scientists and cooks. collaborate with Mark and Eugenia. They're out there somewhere being like, how do we get roped into this? But collaborate and learn to let go. Learn to let go of the idea that any of those jobs or titles I just mentioned are any more worthy than any others. Let go of your inhibitions, let go of ideas of feelings of inferiority or superiority, and I'm realized that I'm probably not going to cure any diseases or change the technological course of the world in my lifetime. But you out here with all of your collaborating and knowing each other's worth will definitely do great things. I might not save the world in the way that I once hoped that I would contribute to, but you guys have so much opportunity to do so many things to help save it. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue to try to do some good by continuing to make authentic work and to believe in and support and lift up artists and femmes. And as luck would have it, this timing just so worked out that I actually get to leave here right from today and go let go by that big ink pool that is the ocean. Thank you.